we are multiplying a mononomial by a polynomial, we use the distributive law to help us in algebra. And I just want to quickly look at what the distributive law is. You have used it earlier in the year. What we did was we distributed or spread multiplication over addition and subtraction. So if we just look at this arithmetic example, with 2, remember this is times 3 plus 4, we would normally ask ourselves, can we do what's inside the brackets? And the answer in this case is yes. I can add the 3 plus the 4 to give me a 7. And now, once we've done our brackets, we're going to do our multiplication. So it's going to be 2 times 7, which gives me 14. Okay, this is the same example again on this side. This time, we're not going to add what's in our brackets first. We're actually going to start by multiplying. So we're going to multiply. And we're going to distribute this 2 over the bracket by multiplying by the 3 and multiplying by the positive 4. So we're going to have first 2 times 3, which would give me 6. And then we've got positive 2 times positive 4 there, which gives me a positive 8. So here we've done the distribution. And it's 2 times 3 and 2 times 4. And then we're going to look for like terms here. Well, 6 plus 8, they're both numbers, so the answer is going to be 14. So you can see that whether we do the brackets first and then multiply, or we distribute and then add and subtract, we're going to get the same answer. And we use this a lot in algebra when we've got unlike terms. Because if I look inside this bracket here, can I do what is inside the bracket? And the answer there is no. They are not like terms. And we can only add and subtract like terms in algebra. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to therefore distribute the 2x into the bracket. Okay, so remember, sorry, not the 2x. Distribute the 3 into the bracket. All right, so let's look at that. We're going to have 3 times 2x. And it's a positive 3 times a positive 2. So we're going to end up with a positive 6x. And then we're going to distribute it to that one. And that's a positive 3 times a positive 1. So we're going to have 6x. 3x times 2x, and then positive times a positive is a positive, and 3 times 1 is 3. These are not like terms. Okay, so you can't add them together. So the answer is 6x plus 3. It stays like that. They're unlike terms. All right, let's try some more distributions. Okay, so let's try 3x times 2x minus 3. Okay, so can I do what's inside? They're unlike terms. Inside bracket. Therefore, I've got to distribute. All right, so this will get multiplied by that, and this will get multiplied by that. All right, so my first one is 3x times 2x. And my next one is 3x times negative 3. So we've got 3x times 2x and 3x times negative 3. Okay, remember sign, number, variable. Okay, so positive times a positive is a positive. 3 times 2 is 6, and x times x is x squared. Remember, we add the exponents. Then we've got a positive times a negative is a negative. 3 times 3 is 9, and the x, these are unlike terms. So the answer stays there. We cannot add and subtract unlike terms. All right. Let's try negative 4a times a squared minus 2a plus 3. Okay, can I do what's inside the bracket? There are unlike terms inside the bracket. Therefore, we have to distribute. All right, so what are we distributing? We're distributing that negative 4a with that one, the negative 4a with that one, and the negative 4a with that one. So we've got 3 terms inside the bracket, so we have to do 3 distributions. So my first one is negative 4a times a squared. That's my first distribution. My second one is negative 4a times negative 2a. And my last one is negative 4a times positive 3. So I'm doing my distributions. Okay, normally you wouldn't write these little sums. It's a good idea to put your little, I call them fireworks on the top there, just so that you can see what you're multiplying. But I find it's easier just to do your sign, number, variable, and keep going. All right, so sign, number, variable. Negative times a positive is a negative. 4 times 1 is 4, and a times a squared is a cubed. Then we start again. We're doing a negative 4a times a negative 2. So we've got a negative times a negative is a positive. 4 times 2 is 8, and a times a gives you a squared. And then we start again with the last one. A negative times a positive is a negative. 4 times 3 is 12, and we have our a. And these are unlike terms. So your answer stays like this. Okay, we have also learned at the beginning of the year about the commutative law. So these 2 terms are being multiplied. The commutative law allows you, commutative law, means we can multiply in any order. So if we have the one term, the mononomial at the back, it's better for us to put it in the front so that we can distribute it in. So we write the mononomial So we would write negative 2m times 3 minus 4m. Remember, it doesn't work unless this is going to be multiplication. So now we're going to distribute this into here. So we have negative 2m times 3, and we have negative 2m times negative 4m. All right, so that's what you're thinking in your head. So we're going to go SNV, sine, negative times a positive is a negative, 2 times 3 is 6, and we only have an m. Okay, so we're done with the first lot, and now we start again. Negative times a negative is a positive, 2 times 4 is 8, and m times m is m squared. All right, so I'm hoping that you guys are going to be able to just do this in your head so that you don't have to keep writing a whole lot of multiplication sums, but that is what you're thinking. On those green lines is what's being multiplied. Okay, number 5. Okay, it looks like we've got a binomial in the front here, but if you look inside your brackets, this one here has got no like terms. But this one here, the first one, these are like terms. So I'm going to first start by putting these two terms in that bracket together. Okay, so 5p minus 3p gives me 2p. And we're going to be multiplying that by this bracket. Okay, so I've got to distribute again that to all three terms. Remember, we're doing S, N, V, sign, number, variable. And I'm not going to write them this time. We're going to do it in our head. So we're going to go positive times a positive is a positive. Those are the first two terms. Positive 4, p to the 3. Remember, that's a 1. And we're going to add the exponents. Then we've got a positive times a negative. Gives me a negative 6, p to the 2. And then we go with the last term. Positive times a positive is a positive. 2 times 1 is 2, and then we have our p. And again, these are unlike terms. So leave it as it is. Don't try and add them. You cannot add unlike terms. All right. So if you have something that looks like this, please remember what I said to you with these sums. You've got to start by deciding how many terms were in the sum. In number 5, you actually had one term. This was one term in the number 5 up here. Okay. This one, if we count the terms here, that's one term, and this whole thing is a second term. There are two terms in the sum. All right, and because of two terms, this 5p here will wait to be sorted. Okay, it's going to have to wait for the multiplication to finish so that it can be sorted later. All right, this negative 3p is going to get distributed into that bracket so that I can finish my multiplication. So I need to finish my multiplication. Finish multiplication here, and the 5p is going to wait. So let's just write that 5p down. And then we're going to do our distribution of the negative 3p. So we have negative times a positive would give me a negative. 3 times 2 is 6, and p times p squared is p cubed. All right, so that's the first one. Negative 3p times 2p squared. Okay, the next one is a negative 3p times a negative 3p, which will give you a positive 9p squared. And then the last one is negative 3p times a positive 1, which gives me a negative 3p. Okay. Are there like terms here? Yes, there are. This 5p can go with that negative 3p. The p cubed is alone, and the p squared is alone. So the only like terms we have are the p terms. All right, so let's look at our p terms. We have a positive 5 and a negative 3, which gives me a positive 2p. So now we're going to have 2p. The negative 6p cubed waits now because it doesn't have a friend to be sorted with, and the 9p squared waits. And that is going to be your answer. All right, we're going to try one more quickly. All right, so we're looking at this one. Okay, how many terms? And it is, let's check, that's 1 term and that's 2 terms. So remember, you're going to have 2 terms later. All right, so we've got 2 terms here. So what are we going to do? We need to finish the multiplication in this term. And we need to finish the multiplication in this term, just like we did in our other examples. So this 5x, because inside the bracket, we've got no like terms. We always check that as well. No like terms inside there. So this 5x is going to be distributed into there. And this negative 3 would be distributed into the last bracket. Sorry, let me just fix that. All right, so let's do our sign number variable when we're multiplying. Okay, so we have a positive times a positive, which gives me a positive 5. X times x gives me x squared. Positive times a positive gives me a positive 10. 5 times 2, x times y. All right, so I'm finished with my multiplication in this first term, and I'm going to move on to the second term. So we're going to do a negative times a positive gives me a negative 3x squared. Negative times a negative gives me a positive 6xy. And again, negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 2 is 6, and then I have my y. Okay, sign, number, variable each time. And now we check for like terms. All right, so let's just look here. Do I have another x squared? Yes, I do. So those two can go together. Do I have another xy? Yes, I do. So those can go together. And then finally, my y here at the end is alone. All right, so let's do our sorting. So we've got our x squareds and we've got our xy's. Our y doesn't need to be sorted because there's only one of them. Right, so we've got a positive 5 and a negative 3, which will give me a positive 2x squared. And then we have a positive 10 and a positive 6, which will give me a positive 16xy. All right, so again, you can do that in your head if you want to. I'm just showing you that we're sorting. Positive 2x squared, remember when we add and subtract, our exponents stay the same. Plus 16xy plus 6y, and then we are done.